Hello and welcome to my channel Read with Ruchi. Thank you so much for joining, subscribing, enjoying the videos that I make. And I also see that you have been sharing my videos with your friends and family, which is just making this community a bigger and a better, happy place. So thank you so much for doing that. So it's Sunday today, and the weather outside is beautiful. It's sunny today, and nothing makes me happier than that. So for today's video, as you can guess it from the title, as usual, this week from Thursday through Saturday, I read about 6 books, but I only read the first chapter for each book. And I did that because I wanted to kind of read the first chapters and determine if I would want to read any of these books in either April or May. And just by reading the first chapter, if I was able to kind of make up my mind that which book would go into the April and May TBRs. So it was really fun, and I utilized like my lunchtime during work, and maybe a couple of minutes after work. And then of course Saturday was because I don't work on Saturday, Sundays, it was easier for me to like take up my morning time and read a few first chapters from like a couple of books on Saturday as well. So in total, I read about 6 chapters from 6 books, so which is like a chapter each from each book. And of course, it was fun. Some books were like great, with their first chapters, and they kind of kept me like intrigued as to what would happen next. Some books were like okay-ish, I wasn't very interested to reading the next chapter. Some books were like I wasn't sure like what to expect out of it. So like there were like a mixed emotion with each book. But what I'm gonna do now is I will leave you with my reading video. So when I started reading, it was Thursday. I used my lunchtime and like probably like a couple of hours after lunch, after my work as well. So I read it. So I'm gonna leave you with that video where I read a lot of books. Let me tell you, I picked up a few good books that I really wanted to read. So please watch that video, and then I will share what I read. Hello, so it's Thursday afternoon, and I am done with my lunch. So I still have like 40 minutes that I can use to read a little bit. So I thought I should just pick up a book and read like one chapter from one of these selected books, and then that way is like one book would be done, right? So I'm gonna pick up probably, let's see, I'm gonna pick up The Local Woman Missing to start with. So I'm gonna read just the first chapter, as I said, to determine if I would want to include this book either in my April or May TBR. So I'm gonna start with this one. Okay, so I read the first prologue for this book. I didn't read the first chapter because I think the book is divided into parts, and the parts are like 50 pages long. So of course I didn't have as much time to kind of read 50 pages, and I didn't want to leave like half a chapter in between, to make a decision. So I thought it's best to read the prologue for this one, and I think the prologue is interesting. I kind of liked it because it also kind of leaves you, with a question like, oh, what happened? If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. So I think I like the prologue, and I might not include this in one of my TBRs in the upcoming 2 months, but you will see if I want to include this or not once I read all the books, and then I'm gonna make my decisions. Hello, so it is 4:30 and it's almost the end of my work day. So what I'm planning now is to pick up another book from the selected ones and read one more chapter from this one before I call it a day at work. So work is almost gonna get over in like say a couple of minutes, like probably in 10-15 minutes, and once it's done I'm gonna pick up In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. So I have been hearing a lot about this one too, so hence selected this for one of my TBRs. So I'll be reading the first chapter from this book in just a few minutes. Okay, so this one seems very promising. I'm excited. I'm really excited to read this. So this one I feel like will be making into my TBR for the next 2 months. But let's see. I just need to quickly finish up some work here, and then I'm gonna go upstairs. I'm gonna have my dinner and then probably pick up a book or two again before I call it a day today. So yeah, I'm gonna let you know which one I choose. All right, so I think my third pick is going to be The True. I don't know if you all remember, but in my previous video I mentioned how much I wanted to read this. I've heard great things about this one, so I'm probably thinking to kind of include this one in my next few TBRs. So I am going to read the first chapter and see how that goes. Read this one, so read like the first chapter and like just like the beginning of the first chapter, and it seems very different than usual like stories. So I'm not sure what to expect out of this, but I think in order to make a decision if I want to include this in my next few TBRs, I'll have to read a few more chapters to really get into the story of it. The first chapter just didn't give me enough juice. So I'm not sure about this, but again, I have heard so much about it. I cannot just like leave it until I pick it up next time. So I want to read like a couple of more chapters before I make a decision if I want to include this. So let's see. Hello, so it's Friday today and the time is 12:45. So I was not able to pick up another book last evening because I got engrossed with so many other things that were happening around me. And then I also had to finish The Whisper Man, which was my fourth book on my TBR list for March. So I finished that last night, so wasn't able to actually pick up any book for this video. But so today I am planning to quickly grab lunch right now, and then once I do once I finish my lunch, I'm planning to pick like Sundown Motel, because that's another book that I wanted to kind of read for since last year, but never got a chance to. And also, before I read another book from Simone James, I plan to read Sundown Motel first. So I'm going to pick that book for this video and see if I like it. So I will take you with me. Wow, I think this is good. This is really good. So the first chapter is really good. I think I'm gonna keep this for one of my early on TBR, so most likely April. This should be going. Let's see. All right. So today is Saturday morning, and yesterday I wasn't able to read as much, again because it was our friend's birthday and we had to go attend that. So I was like all out and exhausted after we came back around midnight. So I wasn't able to catch up with another books that I wanted to pick up. But now, Saturday morning, I want to start again. I have 3 more books to go, so I'm going to pick up this one first. It's called A Lullaby for Witches. So I'm going to start this and read the first chapter. Let's go. All right, so first chapter done for this one too. I think this is going good. Let's see where we take it. Okay, so finally I have 2 more books to go. So one that I'm picking up for this video is going to be 5 Decembers. I mentioned about this book in my previous video. My husband got this one for me. I have no clue what this story entails, so I'm going to pick this one. And then the second book is 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. So I'm going to read a chapter each from each book, and then I will decide which one goes through to my next TBR. So, as you saw, the first book that I picked was The Local Woman Missing. Now, I really like this book by Mary Kubica. I think the first chapter, and as you must have already seen by now, but the first chapter is like a 50-page long chapter, and I think all chapters are divided into parts where like probably like every chapter is about 50, 60 pages long. So I read the prologue instead of the first chapter. Now, the prologue is extremely intriguing because, it talks about this couple, where the wife thinks that the husband is cheating on her, and that becomes a reason for her to cheat on him. Now, while she goes out, planning to meet with her boyfriend, or the person who she's basically cheating her husband with, as she goes out to plan to meet with him, something happens in the dark. It's evening time after dinner, and something happens in the dark. She sees like a car approaching her, and she doesn't know who that person is. It could be her husband, so she's probably caught red-handed. It could be somebody else. Maybe this guy is blackmailing her and using someone to kind of, track her down. But whoever it is, that is basically not disclosed in the prologue. And of course, I'm sure it is going to come up as I start reading the chapter. So I am extremely intrigued to read what happens next and who's this person who approaches her at night, I think 10 p.m. or something. So I am very intrigued to read this. I feel like it is going to be like a fast-paced, like quick read for me just after reading the prologue. But let's see. I hope this is great. This is a good story for me. The next book that I picked up was In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. Now, again, this book too. Oh, by the way, this book I had ordered from Barnes and Noble. They didn't have it in stock at that time, and then they mailed it to me, and I just got this book like probably a week ago. But yes, I wanted to read this because I've heard great things about this book. And the first chapter again talks about this person who is basically going, and apparently I feel like it's going to be in present and past tense story, because the first chapter is titled as Now. So I'm sure like, there will be like a time, like a few chapters moving forward, like they're titled as August freshman year and stuff like that. So apparently this is about a reunion. It's about like these few friends who studied together in the university, and it's been like 18 or some years, and now they're meeting again for reunion, and their entire class is coming together for the reunion, except the one who's not with them anymore. And the first chapter basically starts with this person. I don't remember her name exactly. I read so many books and I just forgot everyone's name. But it starts with this probably the main lead, who is thinking about how she looked while she was in college, and how people treated her, and now she's in a position where she feels like people will treat her really well because she's wealthy and she's made her name in the world. So she's very excited, but she's also thinking about this person who's no more with them, and talks and thinks about basically what happened to her. So the first chapter basically does not talk too much about it, but it gives you like hints of, oh, someone died in their college, and like one of the classmates was responsible for it. So it's really interesting and intriguing. I really feel I'm going to include this and The Local Woman Missing in my next couple of TBR. So definitely probably April and May. I might include both in April. I'm not sure, but definitely one of them is coming in the April TBR. The third book that I picked up was The Troop. Now, I think I might have mentioned this before in my previous video. Like, I was very, very excited to read this because I heard Gabby from the Gabby Reads talking about this book so highly. Like, she was like, this is one of her favorite books. And, you know, she also has a book club that's named after this book, you know. So I really feel like this is going to be a great book, and that is why I have this in my collection, and that is why I picked this up for this video. But I read the first chapter, and I must tell you, like, the first chapter didn't give me enough juice to make a decision. It is talking about, like, and it's very weird, the story, like the beginning of the story. Like, it talks about a hungry man who ate everything, I think in a restaurant or something, and you know, and somebody is basically, you know, he's reported to a newspaper, and the news basically starts with this man being so hungry and eating everything. He would probably eat everyone, kind of a backstory. So I really didn't get enough from the first chapter, and it also could be my fault because, you know, I think I was not too invested in this book because I think I picked this up probably after work, so I was like exhausted, and I don't know if I did justice to the first chapter for this one. But of course, you know, it definitely started off with a very unique beginning, and I think I would want to read more chapters to understand, like, what the story behind is, and like what are they talking about and whatnot. So I'm certain to include this one too, like, in one of my upcoming TBRs. So yes, please be on the lookout for my decision. I also and then next book that I picked up, the fourth one, was The Sundown Motel. And again, so The Sundown Motel is one of my most anticipated reads because I wanted to read this last year, where people were going all hep and hype about this book, and there were people who were talking so highly about this book. Like, you know, they loved it, and there were like creepy, spooky vibes in this one. And, you know, some were like, oh, it was so good, like the suspense was so amazing, you know, the plot was so wonderful and stuff like that. So I wanted to read this last year. I wasn't able to, so I thought, let me pick this up. And then, you know, I wanted to like read it one after the other. So I wanted to read this, and then I would read the Book of Cold Cases, also by Simone St. James. So you know, that was my plan. So I picked this up. I loved the first chapter. Now, I think it is talking about this person, Vivian. Yeah, it talks about this person, Vivian, apparently, who works in a hotel in New York. And she is basically, you know, it talks about a person who's dead. And I think the person who's dead, Tracy, is Vivian's boss. So I think that's the story that I'm getting. But also, you know, I was surprised to see something that kind of took my attention was like just a few basically seconds. If you read the first chapter, you will understand what I'm talking about. But even before Tracy died, Vivian said that she's dead. So I don't know, like, if I read it correctly or if that is the story, but I think there is something to do with Tracy and Vivian. I don't know if there are more characters involved as we move forward in the story. But I think I really loved the start of the chapter. And you know what? Like, the chapters are like put in such a way, like these are smaller chapters, quicker to read. And I love like when they're smaller chapters. That way, as you read more, you just tend up to read like, okay, let me just finish one chapter more. Okay, let me just finish one more and then go for lunch. Okay, let me just finish one more and then go to bed, you know? And it's so easier to kind of read such books, and I love it that ways. Certainly, you know, putting this one in probably my April TBR, but let's see, I'm really excited to read this. The next book that I picked up was A Lullaby for Witches by Hester Fox. I had no clue about this book, but when I went to Barnes and Noble a few months back, one of the reps actually suggested me this book, and she said like she really loved it. It has some witchy vibes, and you know, she said like if you like a little bit of creepy, spooky horror, you will like this, with a little bit of like witchy twist, you know. So I picked this up on her recommendation. Again, I have no clue what the story entails, but I read the first chapter, and it apparently talks about our main character. Again, you know, her name is Margaret. Okay, yes, it talks about Margaret. And you know, she's basically a tour guide, and she gives tour to people in this haunted house where apparently witches lived or were like caged in or were like something, right? And so she gives people tour of this haunted house, or you know, this place where witches used to live, and apparently like people ask her all sort of questions. So this place has history on witches, and you know, it basically is going to take us from, it starts with that story, and let's see where it takes us to. So yes, again, this was the first chapter was like a quick read, and I read the prologue and the first chapter. It was really quick, and I feel, again, you know, the chapters are not as lengthy. I feel like I would love to read this quickly. I'm just not sure. Like, let me just quickly see how many chapters does it have in total. So it has 41 chapters, so not bad, right? It's like short 41 chapters. But it was a quick read, definitely, for me, and I think the storyline was also good. But I'm not very sure if I would want to include this in my April or May TBR. I would definitely want to read this, but I'm not certain if I would include it in my next couple of TBRs. So definitely not in April. So let's see when I include this. I definitely want to read this though. And then the sixth book that I picked up was 5 Decembers. Remember, this was a part of my previous video where my husband got me few books that I wasn't aware of, and you know, he presented these books to me as a holy gift, and I had no clue it was like a suspense for me. So yeah, so I think again, the first chapter basically talks a little bit about, you know, this person who's committed suicide, and you know, then there are people from like the detective and the police who are going to investigate on this case. Again, for this one, you know, honestly, I didn't get enough juice from the first chapter, and I must tell you again, for this one too, it's my fault. I think I didn't give enough justice to this because I was like multitasking. I was reading, and then I had Layla and Simba who were like moving around me, and they were fighting and whatnot. But you know, I think the first chapter still didn't give me like, oh my gosh, I want to start reading this and finish it like tomorrow vibes, you know. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna include this one too in my next couple TBRs, but I want to read this because I like true crime. There's no like, you know, this, I love this genre, so of course I am going to read this. Maybe not in April, probably in May. But yeah, I think I would also like to read like a couple of more chapters to kind of get into the groove of the story. And then the seventh book, which I did not pick up, but I had planned to, is 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. I wanted to pick this up also for this video, but I just didn't have enough time. I had too much going on this weekend, so I wasn't able to pick up this one. But I plan to read this, you know, before I start. I plan to read the first chapter before I determine my TBR for April and May. So yeah, I think I will read the first chapter for this one too, and then maybe include or not, decide to include or not include this for the next TBRs. But yeah, out of the 6 books that I read, I am most definitely going to include The Sundown Motel, Local Woman Missing, and In My Dreams I Hold a Knife in my April or May TBRs. For the truth, I'm going to read like a few more chapters to get into the story a little bit more and understand it a little bit better, and then determine if I want to include this in my May TBR. So yeah, so that's it. I think from me, I really enjoyed doing this, like a quick read one chapter with me, kind of a video for all of you. Let me know how you liked it, and please comment below to share more ideas and suggestions with me if you have any for creating this place a beautiful, amazing, wonderful one. And I would be happy to kind of get some suggestions from you and then utilize them for my videos. But for now, you know which books are coming up in my April and May TBR and which are not at this point of time from the 7 selections that I have, basically 6 selections that I have. So yeah, so I'm going to leave you at that until next Sunday. But until we meet next, please take good care of yourself. Continue to enjoy my videos, like them, comment, share with your family and friends as you all already do. And of course, people around you who've not subscribed to my channel, please ask them to subscribe. And for all of you who are new to my channel, please consider subscribing as well. But for now, I'm going to leave you at that. I will see you next Sunday. Till then, enjoy. Namaste.